everybody. Good morning. So I want to lead off by saying, if Audrey, you listen to this, the best way to keep track of what you're saying is you take notes on the different areas you want to cover. So you can loosely figure out what things that your video is going to be about and make a list, and then figure out how you want it to flow. You could plan, you know, the beginning and ending of any kind of speech or monologue, but sometimes you'll go out of order. And so if so I know what it's like to talk about something and lose your place. You're like, what the heck did I just talk about? And then lose everything. And so or forget to talk about something else that's in your list of stuff. So there's a lot of clues on how to just get the energy out, get your voice out. Because let me tell you, when I'm getting the poop out, I'm getting the energy out. It's like speaking on Facebook and venting so much. The anger, the hurt, the frustration, and it is cathartic. And there are seminar series out there that do some kind of aspects of catharsis where you're just releasing. But it is short-lived because the root cause is still there. You might release some energy, no different than a detox or anything else that's out there in the market. You might release some energy, but now the whole JJ mentality is how do you take an energy and release it on a daily basis that isn't going to take away intelligence and substance, that it's going to actually advance your intelligence. It's going to advance your focus. It's going to advance just everything. And so this morning I woke up hecka early. My dog she was restless. And I see on Facebook people are up at 3 in the morning. I was up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I was up hella early this morning. And there are probably frequencies, like I said a couple weeks ago, that there are frequencies. I kind of hear stuff here and there, though it doesn't, it affects me, but I'm not really too concerned about it because after dealing with those 3 weeks of just the torture, I could pretty much handle anything. And so the only signs that I know that there's stuff going on is when it's harder to poop or I am blowing my nose. And that's it. I haven't felt any real headaches or lethargy. I haven't been feeling lethargic. No, my husband was home all day yesterday, and him and I were kind of bantering back and forth and figure out how to work our situation, our schedule, because I have things to do and, need my space here. Though I could have gone upstairs, but I don't have a chair up there. But even if I did, it doesn't matter. I hung out with him and then I just turned into bed around 5, but didn't really go to bed until about 10. So anyways, all right. What did I write here? Oh gosh, okay. It's about antibiotics and honey and all that stuff, and we are the children. We are the children. We are the children that grew up and are given a warning to parents and other children out there that we have been suffering from the antibiotics. We've been suffering from the medical holistic system, and that this is what you're in for. And we are warning you. We are warning you. If you don't figure some stuff out, this is what you're going to have to deal with on some level. So let me figure this out. Oh, I got to put ayahuasca. All right. Sorry. I'm just trying to get organized here, and I probably should have done this earlier. But this is the creative process. So this is more for me than for you. You're just lucky to observe it. But this is not really for you. This is for me. Though you're like, well, why should I listen to you if you're going to be so... Oh, because... I don't know. All right. Copy. I don't know what the hell I did there earlier. Okay. I just have to fix something because it sounds so. Um, and so the adults are the future. We're telling you there's 3 ways to be in this world. And this is what I have to remember. It's not even on my notes. But there are 3 ways to be in this world. I should write this down. We have people who are cured, and they're the demigods. They're the demigods who think themselves as gods in their industries. Demigods like managing partners of a corporation, executive vice presidents, someone with an advanced degree. They're the demigods, okay? Because they're not like a titan of industry. Who would be a god in our society? Well, Bill Gates, if you were to actually look at the definition of God based upon even antiquity. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, any of the people who have developed an idea that was for the time and they are extremely wealthy, rich, and famous. Hollywood would be like different gods. But the demigods are the people that follow them and get to a certain point, but they don't have major fame. They have fame in their little circles of influence, like their high school class, like their community. We have demigods in my town. They're journalists or they're business owners. Okay? Demigods are those that lead. They're like the queen bees and the king bees of their groups of people. Okay? And so you have to realize that there are 3 ways to be in this world. Cured, and either exemplifying being a demigod or god, or be sick and evolving, and also try to use that platform to be an influencer, a god or demigod. Now, there's a 4th way to be, and this is the Jilly Juice way, 4th way to be, is that you're sick and evolving, but you're not trying to be a god, and you won't die someday. Okay? And so, wow. I'm just thinking about, I gotta read that one statement, because there is a lot going on here in my head and how I'm going to explain all this and not try to offend other religions. I mean, there's a lot going on here, and I have to really be careful what I write, because I'm going to write some pretty amazing stuff, and I already have a platform, and so I don't want to go real political, but there's ways that we got to do this. So okay. Did I say anything about the children? I didn't hear it. Okay. Well, we know that we were taught that you're supposed to die someday, and when you have symptoms, take an antibiotic. And the antibiotic tastes great. It tastes like bubblegum, orange, cherry, strawberry. And so you don't realize that you're actually taking poison because it's antibiotic. And so I realized last night that honey, I knew honey was antibiotic, but still, I mean, it wasn't, I knew it at the surface level, but not so intrinsically, because I still bought baklava. When I had a choice to buy a dessert the other night, I still bought baklava instead of something creamy. And it's just so sweet, so yucky, and you can't feed newborns honey because it's so antibacterial. Newborns don't need to have something taken away their life force. And so that ought to clue you in. If newborns can't have honey, why are we giving honey to our children? Why are we giving honey to our elderly? Why are we putting honey in our tea and using it as a sweetener and using it in our desserts? And so and then you realize then when you translate that then to now the health recommendations from scientists who realize that using peroxide is detrimental to the healthy living cells. in your body. And then honey is being equated with a peroxide effect that was used in antiquity, okay, for superficial wounds or internally. I'm sure even food, yeah, baklava all came out of the Ottoman Empire, they say. But they try to trace it back to the ancient Egypt, but no, honey came out of the Ottoman Empire and the Turks. And so I love baklava and I like all the different foods that are Middle Eastern foods, but some of them are really antibiotic, no different than the curries in the Hindu or Indian food, okay, or the jalapenos. So we have to recognize the extremely antibiotic foods that are in all cultures and then be cognizant of that. So that way you're not inadvertently taking in massive amounts of antibodies. Because when you take in an antibiotic, what happens? Conception. Because remember, you're a plus, an antibiotic is a minus. You're mostly plus. It's not like you're not like you're diving into a vat of honey and that negative, which is the antibiotic, is going to envelop you. No, you're taking in a small amount of negative, which then causes mucus. And that's what was going on yesterday, is I had a bunch of mucus come out after eating that baklava, and then it hit me, oh my gosh, the honey. And so, and there's other things going on, other frequencies going on and whatever. And then I remember Walt Disney and Mary Poppins saying a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And then you start seeing what honey is, like a spoonful of sugar helping the medicine go down, because honey is really sweet, extremely sweet. And so again, when I realized that there are people who will get the JJ meta mentality, those who have been sick, who haven't been taking drugs or alcohol or been self-medicating their whole life. Now, some have, but they've taken such natural remedies that it didn't work. They weren't pharmaceutical grade, so the cure wore off relatively quickly, and they were back to where they were before, suffering. And so I realized that there were like a few types of people, okay? And so, let's see, how did I say this? Oh, here we go. I'm going to read this. Just because you take plant-based medicine doesn't mean that you aren't destroying yourself internally, because you are. If you haven't been sick in years, I would seriously be concerned, because it means that you're aging. And if you're okay with passing away from potentially an event or potentially contracting a future disease, you were told that was how you're supposed to be, so you're just now living on fumes. You're playing Russian roulette every single time you wake up in the morning. And when you feel something and you're taking an antibiotic, will that antibiotic be the last straw that breaks the camel's back? That's what people are dealing with, is that last oncological procedure, that last steroid shot, that last cannabis. Is that going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? And that's what people are living with every day who don't understand what antibiotics do. They develop antibodies. And then when you have an atrophied alimentary canal, then those antibodies get stuck inside. And then in your colon and anywhere else, they start producing cancer, disease, and the aging process. So my whole world is about countering that mentality of passing away or expecting an event and or, whatever. And so you have to feel the pain and get sick, because you hold the disease within and it is destroying you internally. That's called the aging process. So if a person says they never get sick, but they're aging, well, you are sick, because that little monster inside that you need to release without destroying yourself, that little monster inside is actually taking away minerals. It's diverting nutrients away from you. So now you have issues like, but you don't think it's an issue because it's manageable, obesity, aging, emaciation. You can't seem to keep weight on, or mind fog, or other cognitive disorders, okay? So and that would be called a sickness, but some people don't really think that is a sickness because it's just who they are. Can you tell a person who's autistic or have Asperger's? Well, they know they're different, but you can't tell them that it's I don't know, it's bad or good. It's just who they are. They're just trying to find like-minded people. If they've been told that they can't get out of their Asperger's and autism, then they're going to accept it. They're going to deal with it. They're going to be pigeonholed in certain things. That's the danger of telling somebody that this is who you are, that's the only way you're going to be, and this is the cards that you're dealt with, and that's it. And so then people are stuck in a jail of that expectation, which really, it sucks, but that's the world that we live in. Okay, it's not like I can go to every person that has an issue and say, well, you can get out of it, because they really do not know what it takes to get out of that specific situation. And if they try to and they're not aware of how painful it is, they will be upset and they'll think that someone hurt them. Okay, and that's what you saw early on in the JJ world, was that when people were not expecting to feel the events and feel the pain, because J-Juice wasn't a cure for them, it was a catalyst, they were upset. And that's when I got all the hate mail and the hatred and all that stuff, because people thought that I was hurting them. No, honey, I was just preempting what you already had inside, and it was about time for it to come out, but now you can support it and expect it correctly. I said, you might feel all these different symptoms. We made lists in the group, all the different symptoms you might feel if they're predisposed issues. So when you do start feeling all the symptoms, you are now releasing the energy. Over time, you'll get your youth back, but you have to work at it. Let me tell you, getting your youth back, getting you back, your life back, whatever, well, I don't want to say your life back, getting your youth back, getting without being cured and without not being sick. See, that's the thing, is people who have been cured. So there are people in my JJ world that were way behind the 8 ball. And so JJ helped them relieve their issues, okay? They were eating a bunch of food. They were releasing stuff, and okay. And then the COVID came around. They felt the COVID. There's still deep-seated issues in their body, but they haven't really, I'm going to make these assumptions, they haven't really felt their predisposed issues. They've had glimpses of it. But the J-Juice got them to the point where they were cured. Now, it doesn't mean they're cured in the right way. They're cured with still issues in their body. And they are scared shitless to wake up the monster inside. Okay? And how do I know when someone finally deals with their predisposed issues and they have earned the right to be out there, when you think about it, and not portray that they have dealt with all their stuff? Let me tell you, personalities will change. That person will be so angry. You will not see love and light from them, because they will be so angry at what they had to deal with because of all the antibiotics their parents gave them. That person would be a changed person. Let me tell you, deal with my own predisposed issues, and it's been about 6 years. I've been dealing with this stuff for 6 years. I've been going through so much evolution, so much chaos, so much stress. I've had to deal with a lot more than some of my JJ crowd who were using JJ as a cure. Okay? And so they got to a point of managing their life now. They got their life back. But did they really get their life back? Their biological life back? They got the program life where they can go and do their job and everyone loves them and they're doing great. But how long will that last? That's the thing that I want people to understand, is that you don't know if you, well, that's the hard part, and it's all individual. And so you really have to just let people do their thing. And when they do get breakthrough infection, or how will they deal with it, for one, and will it really bring up the beast, or will they just pass away because of the substance? There's not enough substance in their body, because maybe they're doing more J-Juice or they're keeping that stuff inside, and then an event happens and they don't survive it. And that's what I got to let you know, is that there'll be people in the JJ world that say that everything is great, everything is wonderful, and they don't survive. Why don't they survive? Because they were cured. They got to a certain point where, yeah, they were feeling stuff, and then they were eating food, and then they're using so much J-Juice it cured them. And then when they felt different things, they maybe did little shots of J-Juice here and there. And so they cured themselves to where they didn't allow their body to release the antibodies inside, so they're stuck inside metastasizing. And even though they may not have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, they don't have enough substance, or an event happened and it took them out. And so that's what you have to also understand. So that's why I don't want anyone thinking that JJ, everyone in the JJ world is gonna like live forever and have indefinite life, because there are some that you have no idea what they do or do not do in their world. They've been in my world. They were boisterous, yes, or said a bunch of stuff, but they were living a mostly cured lifestyle. The environment did not affect them enough for them to be like, holy shit, be mad, feel the pain, because they have a job out there. They've painted themselves in a financial corner of, yes, accolades, and also they have a lot of expenses. They can't afford to really deal with their sickness. Okay? They really can't afford to. Because their sickness is still, let me tell you, when you have so many issues to where you are falling apart before you got in the JJ world, those issues are still there. Because even 6 years for me, and I didn't have half the issues some of my JJ crowd had. It still took me 6 years, and that last bout where COVID triggered that co-infection of pneumonia, it changed the fuck out of me. It changed me so much that you've seen changes in me. I still feel and hear the same energy from some people. I haven't seen anything different from some people. The fact that Audrey, nice to see you, Audrey. The fact that Audrey took it upon herself to get on and just talk, that's awesome. Because she has the time. Maybe she got comfortable before, and I understand getting comfortable and just kind of done with your stuff, but there is more than just glorifying pain and dealing with your pain. There is a whole intellectual process. Because when you're dealing with pain, what else are you bringing into your world? And it's going to take a while, because you got to deal with your pain, but you have to focus your mind on things too. Hey, you have to focus, hey, Audrey, you have to focus your mind on certain things, picking out, like reading stuff, picking out things in history that are interesting. And so it's also doing intellectual development as you are purging out the beast that was developed in childhood and all through your whole world. And then we adults who have been suffering are the children that are evolving in our society, that their parents are putting so many antibiotics on. Because the parents think that because their genetics are great and they're holding a great job and they're doing amazing, that their kids are going to have the exact same future. Not necessarily. That's an assumption that is a really dangerous assumption, because you, parent, are doing amazing in your job and you have a great house and a beautiful wife or a husband, and you do have predisposed issues. You can see it in your family, and we also are in a dynamic environment with so many mutating viruses. How do you know your kids will be able to withstand the amount of antibiotics and the amount of therapies that you're going to force upon them so they can get through and deal with this environment? How do you know they're going to end up the way that you have ended up? We're in a different world. What you have dealt with is not necessarily the same thing that they are going to be dealing with. And can you tell someone that? Not necessarily. But that's what you have to understand. And so, every single antibiotic you take in, or natural remedy, plant-based medicine, those ABX will put you further behind the 8 ball. And so it's hard to speak to everyone universally, because everybody has a different set of genetics with different outcomes. And even though, yes, we all respond to stimulus the same when our body allows us to trigger it, some will respond to the stimulus down the road and later. Others will respond to stimulus right away, and then relative to your expectation, it could be a curse or it could be, a gift. And it's Russian roulette. And so those that have been cured, that have great genetics, for one, have been cured, they have some money behind them. They have a lifespan. And you say they're living a great life. Absolutely. That's great. But they'll have a lifespan. They're going to be influencing people to go down the same road that they're going down. And it's going to take them down, just like the sirens in the Iliad and the Odyssey that wooed the sailors down to their death in the depths of the water. That's what the beautiful people in our society are like, the sirens, the sea nymphs that lured the sailors to their death. And can you tell someone that this beautiful person is really actually the devil? They'd be like, you're jealous, Jillian. No, no, no. I see it in my high school class. They're having a reunion, a 30-year reunion. They're going to have Sir Mix-a-Lot as their themed artist of the night. And I already see people flexing. They already have the popular people figured out. They've already tagged the popular people where they're going to go and flex and do all this stuff, right? And you see the disciples, the worship of some of their friends. And it becomes when the whole high school reunions is really based upon the popular people who are trying to revisit the past because they know that they're going to die someday. That going back to high school is so much better than developing a future. Staying cured and living that dream of being a god in their adulthood because they were a god or goddess in high school. Well, their disciples are going to try to follow them and end up over the cliff with them, but they're not living for the future. That's why high school reunions exist, because it tells you that that's how our society is constructed. Don't really look at the future. Let us develop the future. You just be a pawn in our big, huge thing, and then keep going back to your high school reunion to keep revisiting yesterday. Because in actuality, you really have no future. You're just a widget in the machine. And so are your children. And you can't even guarantee your children end up like you. I watched a movie last night, Netflix. You better watch it before the 31st because it's going to go off of Netflix. But it's called The Last Shaman. And this kid who is a son of two doctors that are highly, highly educated and was going through all the different mental health because he lost his emotions. He had a lot of internal anxiety where he didn't feel anything. And he wants to feel human. And so he even underwent some kind of like electroshock therapy, and it didn't help him. It made him worse. And all the different drugs that the Harvard doctors that his parents belonged to, he was just upset with all the different pharmaceuticals. And so he went on a sabbatical to Peru, to the ancients. He went to the past. When you go anywhere like Peru or going into a third world country, you are going into the past. But in the West, the past is dressed up like the future. But now instead of it being in Peru, in a jungle, in a hut, with all these different plants that these shamans around are playing with and doing chants and everything, you have lab coats and you have doctorates and you have intellectual people doing symposiums. But even though those two worlds seem so different, they're actually the same. They're doing the same thing, except you have an indigenous folk and you have a beautiful building that is in the middle of a huge city. And so this kid goes into Peru and he sees several shamans. See, the first shaman, he saw someone that died during that ayahuasca type of ceremony, and he freaked out. So he left that village and went to another village to a guy that's a convict and a cockfighter. He fights roosters, and who has dubbed himself a shaman. And he plays with all the ayahuasca. They show you how they make the ayahuasca, and they go through and they have to do all this detoxing and smoking tobacco and purifying yourself. And then this kid is like drinking this stuff, and you can see the years of his life actually diminished. He was aging progressively during those ceremonies and during those rituals of him being alone in the hut, doing the ritual of eating just this type of food, drinking the ayahuasca, smoking his tobacco, and going through his B-cell memories. And he was aging. Now, did he get his life back, like his emotions back? A little bit, but it costed him. Even though he's back at home, you look at him from when he first started to when he was during that process, and then when he goes home, he has aged progressively, like insanely. And you're like, well, that was the whole point, that he feel some kind of relief. That's Ursula. That's when you get a gift or a spell, but something you have to now pay for that, and you pay with your life. And who knows what's going to happen. We only see that was like a couple hour movie, an hour and a half. Do we really know the long-term effects of ayahuasca? Especially on, with his situation. Every situation is different. No, we only saw the beginning of his journey, of his issue, how he figured out how to solve it, and then the outcome. But then there is so much left unsaid that you'll never know, because is he going to tell you? It's all HIPAA. So, yeah, antibiotics. And that's basically that is the modern day Opium Den. The Silk Road. Opium dens were a dime a dozen way back in antiquity, and even in the 1800s, Middle Ages, and even modern day, within the last like 200-300 years. And people suffer. Children suffer. So the sickness that I felt the last couple weeks gave me so much intelligence, and it added years to my life because I ate all food. I released the poop. Let me tell you, sometimes releasing poop is a pain in the ass. It's painful. It's like you're giving birth. You have so many, like I had corn the other night. I still haven't seen corn come out. I had corn like with my steak, I think on Saturday. Yeah. And what are we in, Monday or Tuesday? Monday? Usually in my system is whatever, corn comes out the next day. I haven't seen corn come out. It's still in my body. Okay. I'll let it go. But there's other poop that came out and it's still painful. So I know there's so many different chambers. There's so many different chambers in my colon that when I did release certain aspects, because I knew I hadn't pooped really in the last couple of days since Saturday. No, yeah, I mean, poops, even on Saturday, I didn't poop on Saturday. Really. Tiny bit. And so there are chambers in your body, but I don't feel bloated. And so when your chambers are so huge, because men have big bellies, so do women, those chambers turn into wombs. They turn into uteruses. And then they also procreate so much life. That's where the colon cancer comes from. That's where all the different cancers come from. Because you have so many different chambers in your colon that hold so much residual poop and antibodies and parasites and protozoa and proteins and fungus and bacteria and viruses that people age astronomically fast. But remember, they have cured themselves where they've programmed their body to get up in the morning, drink their stuff, go poop, eat their food, do their job, and go to bed. But with this environment, it's kind of knocking their biorhythms off a little bit. Some even a lot more. And so it will always be a battle for you to get stuff out and to maintain your autonomy. Okay? So the sickness I felt last couple of weeks gave me so much intelligence and added years to my life because I ate all food, released the poop, and blew my nose. And I don't take my life for granted, and I value my life. Some men, this is where I figured out, some men will have a harder time with the JJ world because they were not bred to mature. Many men are aging out, but they're not maturing. They're all about the sex. They're all about one or two dimensions, a few hobbies, a few girls, some food, their friends, and that's about it. That's the extent of their life. There really is no intellectual advancement. There really is no exploring another thought process. There really is no maturity. It's just maintaining a cured state, status quo, your programmed life, and then when life can't hold you anymore, then you're gone. Okay? And so men have a harder time maturing, and so they age out, and So they'll have a hard time with this. If they have been cured their whole life, you think they're going to want to go and bring up the demons in their body? Not necessarily. And if they have been cured for a long time and then have a disease, then they go and get all the different cures on the market, or get on drugs, alcohol, or get into the distractions. And then, yeah, because maturing means you actually face the pain. Maturing means you don't take all the different remedies and drugs and alcohol. Okay, but when you are in jobs that you're in because you've painted yourself in a corner to pay all the bills, or pay, not all the bills, but pay so many bills. Let me tell you, if my husband cut down his expenses, he wouldn't have to work as hard as he does. If my husband chose then to focus on, yes, doing his job, but also the healing process, he would get rid of his boat, okay? He would get rid of all of his different, whatever else that he has that he has to pay for. And he would just focus on the small bills that we have, the utilities and our mortgage. And he wouldn't have to work half as much as he works. But the reason why he has painted himself in a corner where he doesn't have time to deal with his stuff is because he has so many hobbies and so many expenses. And that's how you jail yourself, is by financially painting yourself in a corner where you don't have the time to take care of yourself. And so that's where men have not matured, because they're all about material wealth, accolades, and playing with their friends and partying, and that's it, and then dying. But there is no real maturity. There's reproduction. Yeah, men drop their seeds everywhere. Some have a bit more of a, what do you call it, control, and they get married, and they're not like sex addicts and out there doing everything ever, No, they figured out how to work it with their wives. Assuming the wife is, alive and doesn't have a diagnosable condition, a chronic condition. And so some men will have a harder time with the JJ world because they were not bred to mature. They were bred to reproduce. Even some women will have a hard time, especially if they have so many children. When you have so many children, you're in deficit, major, okay? Or have been cured their whole life. So there are some women who have been cured their whole life, and so they're holding on to their youth, their vitality, their muscles, and their sexiness, and everyone's like, ooh, ah, demigod, or whatever, and worshiping them. And so you think they're going to want to bring up their predisposed issues? No, they're going to try to milk and eke out as much of that fame, fortune, and accolades as they can. And I wouldn't blame them. If everything is great and nothing is wrong, why would you go and bring on the pain? I get it. I absolutely understand. So who am I talking to? I'm talking to those who are already sick, who already feel the pain, who've already been evolving for years, but no one understood that they were actually evolving. Because we live in a world where it's all about being cured and being a robot and being an evil demigod, right? That was luring men and women to their death. That was our life, was being a siren. That was the world that we lived in. That's California and New York. It's all about looking cute, having a cute little tiny body, starving yourself, giving your kids so many antibiotics so they don't feel anything, so they be little robots too. And then when they don't perform, throw them away because they're not useful anymore, right? Well, now those days are over because those robots are not withstanding that lifestyle. You see them breaking down, they're glitching. How many of them are dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders? And so are their children. So now the world has changed, and the ones that have been sick our whole fucking life, now we have a chance to figure out, oh wow, we already have the what do you call it? The strength to deal with the pain. Because we've been dealing with pain our whole fucking life. That's why, Audrey, you are prime example. This is your journey, your video diary is going to be amazing because it's going to be a long time. You've already dealt with pain. You really get where I'm coming from. You're taking on the challenge. You're not worried about image. And so it's going to be a long process, yes, because let me tell you, I know exactly where you are right now. You are trying to figure out how to organize your thoughts. You're trying to figure out what exactly is your focus. Okay, you already know. I already knew the JJ. I had to prove JJ. But now you got to figure out what in your world What do you want to focus on? Because when you are finally feeling the pain and dealing with your stuff, what are you living for and why? Are you, and that's, what is it? Even more simply, or even more simply, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? And that is going to be something you will explore and figure out during this painful process. And so that's why those that are sick, that have some ounce of openness of evolution, this is now your world. This is where innovation comes from. This is where John Milton, the guy that said that I would rather reign in hell than be a servant in heaven, he came out of the English Civil War back in whatever, the Middle Ages. Okay? He was the one that wrote Paradise Lost. Lucifer and whatever, and the fall of mankind. Okay? And so, from this turmoil, from your pain, Audrey, and anyone else, when you are dealing with pain, cancer, disease, and chronic illness, this could be an opening for you to freaking evolve and be innovative and survive and deal with the demons, or this is where you're going to destroy yourself. And I'm telling you, watch people destroy themselves every fucking day. They got cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and they are on a string of drugs, and they are taking surgeries, and they are in massive amounts of pain. But they try to hide it behind all the drugs, alcohol, and everything else. And so we are being faced. We are in the age of reckoning. And yeah. But there's so many people selling people dreams. Oh yeah, you take my remedy, it's going to prolong your life and give you the relief. Not really. Or you wouldn't keep going back to these places. People wouldn't keep going back to the hospital to get their steroid shots. If it was the magic freaking bullet. People wouldn't keep doing their cannabis if that was the magic bullet. But the reason why they're going back to cannabis every day, the reason why they're getting their oncology appointments, the reason why they're always going back to the same remedies is because that shit doesn't fucking work. It's not supposed to work. You're not supposed to be cured. You're supposed to fucking feed the energy. Now it's time to relax. Change your fucking lifestyle. But can you tell someone that's addicted? Even though it's not helping them, because if it was helping them, they wouldn't have to turn to it anymore, right? It should only be one time. But that's not the case. Because that was only temporary. And then you resort to stronger means until you take yourself out. That's exactly what goes on out there. So men and women who have had a cured lifestyle hardly ever get sick. Will have a hard time with this mentality. And I don't see them understanding this. And they will go out with a bang. And all of their disciples will go down the ship with them. That's what I'm saying. And that's why I have to be very careful about talking about religion. Because in the West, we have a lot of freedom. We're in a melting pot. We have Muslim, atheist, Judeo-Christian, whatever. And so we have a lot more freedom to talk about and question politics, religion, and science. Now, I don't know anything about, again, the Islamic religion. So I'm going to actually get away from that. I'm not really going to mention Islam because I really have no relationship with the Muslim religion. I really don't. And it's not for me to say if Muhammad is a prophet. I don't even know how their whole society works. If I was in Iran or Iraq or any of the Muslim countries and I saw how religion was being used, if I was in there and I had something to say about it, okay. But I have absolutely no experience with the Muslim religion. So I can't even say that my thought process around prophets for profit is for profit over there, because it may not. Here, prophets are for profit. Christ was being used as an exploitive tool, as a martyr, to then capitalize on people's absolution. I can comfortably say that because I can see it. I can't say anything about the Muslim religion, so I'm not even going to touch it even in my book. So I'm not even going to go there. Because also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about Salman Rushdie again, because he came from like Pakistan, India or something, and he really went into a lot of depth, of which really offended. And I don't have that kind of knowledge. I couldn't write a book about Muslim religion. No. But I can write about Judeo-Christian. I can write about the Rosicrucians, because that's the West. That's Jewish mysticism, Christian Gnosticism. That is Hermeticism, Greek. And we need to evolve, and that's why we are in America. That's why I'm in America, is that we are about evolution. We are about change. And that's why this is the best country in the world. That's why the West, even in England, Australia, Scotland, well, let's say UK or Europe, they are evolution. We're evolutionary. Some cultures may not be, and they don't want to be, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convert anyone in Iran. I'm not trying to convert anyone in Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. I just have a question about religion and politics and science, the dogmas, here in my world of Western civilization. With China, okay. And so I really had to think about that. Because I have to take into account just how fundamental some religions are. Now, that does not excuse the fundamentalist evangelicals in America to take anything to extreme, though it happens. But we have been bred to be relatively tolerant to someone questioning their politics, someone else's politics, religion, or science. But some countries are not very tolerant. Some countries do not want to hear anything different. And that's okay. But I live in the West, okay? And so men and women who have been cured, who have had a cured lifestyle, hardly ever get sick, will have a hard time with this mentality. And I don't see them understanding this. And then those who have been sick were actually evolving, and we can understand how to handle the pain. Now you won't get the magic of evolution. Okay. So hardly ever getting sick. Okay, here we go. Those who hardly ever get sick, or those who hardly ever deal with the pain, will not deal with it at all. And now I understand. Hardly ever getting sick is a curse. Hardly ever getting sick was a disservice to you. Now you won't get the magic of evolution and overcoming your issues because you can't handle the pain and the discomfort, and you won't get where I'm coming from. And so those who have gotten sick and use the medical system to cure themselves, but they've had so many years of not being sick, will also have a hard time. The chronically ill who aren't on drugs, alcohol, and other distractions might have a fucking chance. Or the extremely intelligent and open who are also sick. Or who also have not been as sick. And so one question unanswered. After dealing with childhood predisposed issues, will my exposure to new viruses be as intense? Time will tell. Okay? And I repeated some stuff here. Oh, I'll redo this. That's so much going on. There's so much going on in my head. So that's all I'm going to say right now. Okay? But just remember that you got to feel this freaking pain shit. You really do. And I really had to get in my head how I'm going to write this book. And I definitely feel, oh yeah, okay, I gotta talk about this. I can't stop thinking about how the divorce rate for men leaving their really sick wives is so high that nurses are taught to warn women patients when they get diagnosed with a serious illness. And on the other side of it, when a man really becomes super sick and the woman has a lot going on in her world and she doesn't want to take care of that or deal with that or whatever, it happens on both ends. That's why if you are married and you're relatively young, I've seen people who are already retired, and so they have time to hang out with each other and deal with each other's issues, and they've both been sick, so they both are in that world. But when someone is really well and someone is super sick and you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, divorce rate will be high because The person who is well does not want to be a caregiver, didn't sign up for it. Even though they said in sickness and in health, when you're told that everything is going to be great, you're young and your whole world's ahead of you, and you're not expecting to get cancer 5 years later, you're not expecting your wife or your husband to get cancer 5 years later, that is a blow to everything you ever thought your marriage was going to be based upon. When you're 30 or 25 and you both seem to be relatively healthy and you have all these dreams of the future and having kids and having a big house and a nice whatever, and then that dream disintegrates because somebody just got diagnosed with a condition, I don't blame them. I know it sounds rather cold in sickness and in health, but let me tell you, people get married and expect to have the dream. No different than when someone gets a student loan and they expect to get paid a shit ton of money and feel like that school and that education is going to give them the world. They didn't know any better when they got married how shit was going to work, and because they're not looking at, they don't have the experience to see what someone else had dealt with that had the downside of getting a student loan or the downside of getting married at a young age or even middle age, and then realizing that person might have some predisposed issues that you're going to have to deal with, and now you have to carry that. People don't look at all the different scenarios. They look at the fantasy of the future, but not the cold, hard reality. Now with social media, you can see the cold, hard reality. Okay? You can see what could potentially happen and take that into account. And so, yeah, a lot of young couples get exploited into marriage. And so that's why I'm so happy I figured out the JJ world, because my husband would have been saddled with some shit. And he probably, I wouldn't say he would leave me. I would say he'd be working so much, he wouldn't be around to caregive. He's hardly around now. You know why? Because he has stuff to pay for. Absolutely. And so, so when he's on the road taking care of the bills in our house and everything and whatever, I'm dealing with my own sickness on my own. Imagine if I didn't have the JJ world. I would be on my own. Okay? And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's not his fault. No, it's not his fault. Fuck no. He is who he is. But it's my responsibility to stay fucking well. It's my responsibility to not be a drain on him. But that's horrible. No. People are people. And you have to know the people that you're around and know that okay, if you're going to be around certain kind of people, whatever they are, because even if you get a caregiver, then they're going to be feeding you antibiotics left and right. They're going to be finding ways to give you peace. Rest in peace. And so no matter what, you have someone that's not there or someone that's there, they could be destroying you. And so then now really you think about it, you have to take care of yourself. You are on your own. Even he's on his own. He's on the road dealing with COVID, and he's freaking shaking with sweat and stuff and all that crap, and he was on his own. He didn't have me to go and shove salt water down his throat. Not that he would allow me to do it, but you know what I mean? So he had to deal with the shit on his own. When you think about it, a husband and wife truly need to learn how to take care of themselves and then bring the best part of themselves to that relationship, not the worst part of themselves. Though the worst part of people's selves happen a lot more. Then you see the divorce rate, you see the breakup rate, you see on some women's profiles how many men they have been through for the last 10 years since Facebook. I got lucky, only one dude's on my Facebook, and that's my husband. But you see the patterns that are going on out there. Because people are fancy the dream, but they don't realize that they're taking on some heavy duty stuff. And they're not prepared for that. And then they break up. Be like, oh, sorry, I can't deal with this situation. And you shouldn't if that person's destructive. And so nowadays, it's better just to be single because you really don't know what you're going to get. Unless you get like a titer test and you get person's predisposed issues. And then you're wondering, well, shit. And you look at their parents. You're like, oh, okay, your parents have some issues. Oh, wow, this is what I'm going to be dealing with. And that's the thing, people don't even look at the parents of the person that they're getting together with. Okay, and they don't realize that they're taking on, and if their parent, if their mother-in-law or father-in-law is really, really, I don't know, have issues, that's what's going to happen to the daughter or the son at some point. Right, Audrey? Yep. So, yeah, so that's why it was so important for me to get myself well and figure it out, because I probably would have been divorced by now. I probably would have been divorced or sick in the hospital. And so I saved myself. I saved my marriage. I saved a lot of fucking things in my world because I took on the stress of just wanting to survive, wanting to live. Some of you are cured, don't have any fucking idea of where I'm coming from. And some of you who are in pain, who are dealing with shit, know exactly where I'm coming from. And so who am I talking to? To the ones that are already evolving, who are sick, who have a chance. And the ones that aren't sick, that are all cured and drugged out and distracted, good luck to you. I hope you survive your lifestyle. I hope everything that you're doing right now is going to give you everything you could possibly want. And thank you for your service. All right, I got to go. Bye.